Are we on? Today's bench press day, and it's heavy bench press day. So the goal is 190 kilograms for 3 sets of 3. And before I start my benching, I'm doing some thoracic mobility exercises that I've used to do more of, and I should always kind of do some mobility work in my training. And I've just been a little bit lazy, but I'm doing my best to not be lazy. And I'm trying to do this particular exercise for all of my days. So thoracic extension. So what does thoracic mean? That's a part of your spine. It's the vertebrae that are attached to your ribs. Those are your thoracic vertebrae. Above that are your cervical vertebrae. So that's your neck, and below that is your lumbar vertebra, which is your lower back. And when you're doing all pressing exercises, I shouldn't just say pressing, with all exercises pretty much, squatting, deadlifting, everything, thoracic mobility and thoracic extension is a really valuable position, and let's keep it to bench press today. I'm arching in a bench press. You guys know that's what I do for powerlifting. But there's more benefits to arching in a bench press beyond the obvious. So a lot of people think powerlifters, they arch in their bench press to reduce the range of motion so they can lift more weight in competition, which is absolutely true. But it's not the only benefit of arching in a bench press. So 2 more benefits for arching in a bench press. One of them is the shoulder blade position when we put the barbell on our chest. So think of it like a row. If you were to do a seated cable row, when you get to this position, you want your shoulder blades to be kind of back and down. So that's the exact same position I want when I have a barbell on my chest, back and down. Now, here's the difference between a bench press and a row when we're talking about shoulder positioning. When I row, I want my shoulder blades to come forward here. But when I bench, the problem with coming forward with my shoulder blades is I'm laying on the bench with a heavy weight in my hands that restricts my shoulder blades from being able to move freely. So if I allow my shoulder blades to come forward or to protract when I'm lifting a heavy weight, when I want to bring that bar down on my chest, like it's happening now because my shoulder blades are sitting on this foam roller here, it's going to stop my shoulder blades from naturally retracting, which is why I perform my bench press from retraction from the whole range of motion. So 1, yeah, of course it reduces the range of motion, but 2, it positions your shoulder blades in the safest position for pressing heavy weights, which is retracted in the press. So I spoke about thoracic extension. Those 2 actions are paired. Thoracic extension is required for shoulder blades to come back and down. If your upper back is rounded or you're hunching forward, you can't really pull your shoulder blades back to the position they need to be. So range of motion, scapular positioning. But now let's talk about the benefits of muscle building and scapular positioning, or I should say thoracic spine positioning. Have you ever heard of the cue chest up? Okay, so that's not me picking up my chest. Actually, it's thoracic extension is the action that we're achieving. Now, so that thoracic extension, what it does is it increases my sternum angle. So this is my sternum, not just that bony point there, that's the one part of the sternum, but it goes all the way up to here. So my pec fibers, majority of my pec fibers attach to the sternal, that's the sternal portion of the pecs. So we've also got clavicular portion of the pecs as well, but majority of the pec fibers attached to the sternum. And when your goal is to build muscle, what you want to do is create tension on the muscle. And the best way to create tension on the chest is, so you think of the attachment points, sternum and humerus. So I want to pull the humerus back and pick the sternum up. So it's increasing the distance between those attachment points, which increases tension on the muscle. Which means even if your goal is to build muscle, so not just powerlifting, not just cheating with an arch and manipulating your levers so that you can shift a heavy load, but if your goal is to build muscle, you want to pre-tension that muscle so that you can use it maximally, right? So that means that all of your pressing exercises, even if your goal is muscle building, so whether it's an incline, a flat, any of those angles, arching your upper back is a very, very important thing for you to be able to do. So a lot of people, when they arch, that leads me to the next problem with arching. A lot of people don't have great thoracic mobility, and when they arch, all they're doing is arching their lower back. So when you do a correct arch, yes, there will be arch in the lower back, but I want it to carry over to the upper back. If you don't have the upper back mobility and you're just copying in your lower back, it's not really doing many great things. So therefore, increasing your thoracic mobility with exercises like this is really beneficial. And I'm going to start doing this now. I've already started on squat day, which was 2 days ago, is doing it before all of my training days. So check this out. What am I doing? So I've set up this foam roller, so it's horizontal, directly underneath where my scapulars are. So imagine you're a girl and you're wearing a bra. Maybe you are a girl and you're wearing a bra, where that bra strap would be. But typically it's directly, so if those are your shoulder blades, this needs to be placed directly underneath your shoulder blades. And what I want to do is extend my spine past that. So this is thoracic extension. Okay, and then I make that adjustment. So this is mobility work. It's different to stretching. So I'm mobilizing joints rather than attempting to elongate muscles. So if you need to stretch, so people talk about pec stretches because you're about to use that. I don't recommend that. So stretching, what it does is it lengthens those fibers and it detaches those. So what you want to do is be contracting those muscle fibers. So this defeats the purpose of it. So when you stretch before maximal contracting, it actually decreases the strength of that maximal contraction. So don't stretch muscles before you're about to use them if your goal is to use them maximally, right? So I'm not going to stretch my pecs now. And if you have to stretch your muscles, do it after. But actually stretching, there's not a huge amount of benefits to stretching, especially not before you train or not before strength work, especially on the target muscles you're about to strengthen. But that's the difference between stretching, so that's elongating muscles, which I'm not doing, and mobilizing joints. So mobilizing joints, huge benefits. And that's going to allow me to achieve the right position that I need in a bench press, which I'm going to walk you through in a moment. So today's session is going to be, it's my heavy day. So last week, if you're following, I did 3x3 on 185, and it was pretty comfortable. Today's plan is 3x3 on 190. Hopefully it's equally as comfortable. I've got Musti here, who's going to be on the unrack. Have you been practicing Musti, bro? You ready for me? All right, we'll do that. So while I'm going to be warming up my bench press, you're going to be warming up your unracking. But I'm going to do my usual dumbbell pressing up to my first weight. So what am I doing? 190. So what's that plate configuration? It's going to be red and then 3 blues aside. And the goal, so this is week 2 of the program. Week 1 was 185. Week 2 is 190. Next week will be 195. That'll be pretty big. And then the 4th week, which is the goal, is to hit a new kind of like PB around this range. I've done it before, but not for a long time. Watch your step. It's 200 kilograms for 3. So recently I did 200 kilograms for 2, and then I retested my max and it was 210 for 1. So the next step would be 200 for 3, which should bring my max to, I don't know, maybe 215, who knows, something like that. So this is just warm-ups. I'm not going to be, a lot of the times with my programming, I'll pair push with pull. So that's agonist, antagonist, supersets. But when I'm doing a bench press this heavy, 190 kilograms, I need all the energy that I can get. So I'm just going to do bench press, and then I'm going to wait 8 minutes without doing a superset. So the only benefit of doing a superset is time saving. So when I'm not doing a superset, that means I'm not saving time. That means my session is going to last maybe 2 hours if I do all the accessories. So 3x3 of a heavy weight like 190, I'll probably be finished that in 1 hour. Watch out. See, I'm extending my thoracic spine. I'm not just laying flat and relaxing. I'm picking my sternum angle up or chest up. And if my goal was muscle hypertrophy or building pecs, this is the exact position that I'd be in. I'd be poking my chest up on a flat and on an incline. Lovely. Lovely. All right. So let's talk about the other things that are going on in my life. Not really my life, just my shoulder. So last week I did a session with the cream team. So that was on the weekend with Reese and Vasa. And so I'm doing high rep work and then low rep work. So I did 3 sets of 8 on 160. And I'm doing 3x3 on this heavy day.
And I find that I can't go heavy every session. I need to do a heavy session and a light session. And that's going to give my body the most time to recover. That's for me and most people that I work with, and probably you as well. But something happened on my first set of 160. When we unracked it, it wasn't anything problem with the unrack, but something happened, my shoulder just went, oh, it's like a sharp pain. And it felt sore. I don't know if it's that or a combination of that with my boxing, because a lot of I box 2 times a week, and that's kind of been hurting a little bit, but it was just on that top set. The first top set, it hurt. I still did the set of 8, and it was pretty easy. And then on the next set, I was just really, really cautious with the unrack. So we slowed it down, and I really focused on the position, and there was 0 pain at all. So I felt it again when I was doing the dumbbells just now. So right now, I thought I'm going to continue, and this is what I'll always do. If there's no pain doing the exercise, like I don't just stop because there's a little bit of pain. I say, well, let's just see what happens with the exercise. So sometimes I've hurt my back, and then I've had successful deadlift sessions, because it's like it just makes me mindful of how to brace correctly and how to move correctly, and it actually ends up being beneficial. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is making sure that I'm positioning my body correctly. I'm going to be really focused on the technique, and I've got my boy Musti unracking from the very, very light weight. So far I've only done 70 kilograms, then 90, but both of those sets, 0 discomfort. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this entire session. It's going to be a little bit boring, so we'll just fast forward through, and you'll just see set, 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 set. And then once I've done my top set, that's when I'll get into more discussion about everything that we're doing. But right now, and that brings me on to my next point, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to get my game face on, and I'm going to get the work done. Now, someone actually put out in the comment on one of my last bench press videos, they said, you mentioned game face, what does that actually mean for you? You know, getting the right mindset for your heavy sessions, what does that mean for you? Yeah, great question. That's evolved for me in my years of training. When I first started lifting heavy, I used to think, maximum arousal before the big sets is gonna allow you to perform better. To a degree that's true, to a degree that's actually detrimental to your performance. So sometimes there's a point where you can be hyper-aroused, so too much psych up. The big back slaps and all of those things can, it can negatively impact your performance. And I've found that over the years, that's not what I respond best to. So if you slap my back before a big set, I don't perform better. It's kind of a bit of a distraction. It's like, kind of get off me, right? So for me, it's more about focus. I know how to focus. And a lot of the times when I'm doing my big heavy sets, I don't like to be having conversations, especially that are unrelated to my training, right? So whenever I'm doing education, whenever I'm teaching people how to lift and I'm training, I won't do that on my big heavy sessions, because it takes my focus off the heavy sets. I really need to be focused to make sure nothing goes wrong, and make sure that my mind's where it needs to be. So typically, I don't do that for these lighter warm-up sets. I like to be relaxed, because it's actually draining to be too hyper-focused for the entire session. But at the same time, I need to have my mind on this task, because I've got a potential shoulder injury if something goes wrong, because it's 190 kilograms. So these are the times where if you're just out by a little bit, something can go wrong, right? So I don't want that to happen. So back to the point, I've got my game face on. I'm going to be really focused on technique, locking my shoulders in position, so really arching my upper back, shoulders back and down, and really, this is where I need my spotter as well to really help guide me out and take a lot of that weight for the unrack, so I'm not out of position. And that's what we're going to do. So 110 kilograms is next, and we're going to go up by 10 kilogram jumps. So 10 on each side, so 20. So up until I get to 190 kilograms, and that's it. Wish me luck. Let's do it, Musti. Okay. Ready, bro? Good one. Good one. Perfect. Perfect. Oof. That was comfortable. I'm still guarded. You can see whenever I'm guarded because I'm very slow on the way down. But then it's the way up that counts, right? So what I'm doing on the way down is I'm just trying to maximize tension and precision. So I get it in the line, get it in the line, get it in the line. Yep, we're on. No problem. So hopefully that's what happens with the next set, which is my first top set. 190, here we come.
From that, do you think we need to adjust the program?
I'm going to reassess set by set. That's what I'm going to do. Because, you know, I'd like to do 3x3, but I would also like to come out uninjured. Do you know what I'm saying? So what's the priority? I'll tell you what the priority is, to stay uninjured. So sometimes it does mean taking a small step backwards so that you can continue moving forward, rather than being forced to take a big step backwards, which is not what we want. Come on. The stress, let me tell you. Oh, man. Thank you, Musti. Thank you, bro. All right, I'll tell you why I'm so happy. Not because I got 3 reps on 190, of course, that's okay. We knew I could do that, but because that didn't hurt my shoulder at all. But I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead because that's too much stress. I know that I can do multiple sets of that. And yeah, you know, it'd be nice to follow the program and do 3x3, which I haven't looked back on the video, but I felt that that was comfortable. I know I had a 4th rep there for sure. So my strength is there. But what I'm gonna do now is just a bunch of shoulder health work so that this pain doesn't bother me anymore. So for me to work towards my ultimate goal, which is to do 220 kilograms, which I'm not far off. I did 210 last week, or was it the week before, whatever it was. And yeah, so 220 is not far off. For me to do 220 from here, I need to not injure myself. So that's the best way of not injuring yourself, is don't take big risks. Because when I'm at heavy weights like this, you know, the smallest thing that could go wrong can cause an injury that puts me out for a long time, which I don't want to do. It doesn't mean don't train. It does not mean don't train. So right now, I'm not going to change the program. So next week, hopefully I'm back to my 3x3. Hopefully it's just a thing of the past. But right now, 1 top set of 3 on 190, and now I'm just going to do other exercises. The dumbbell work, because there was very little stability in the dumbbells, that aggravated it. So maybe I won't be doing dumbbell stuff. I'm going to play around and see what I can do. I know I can do my posing muscles, so all of my rows and pull downs. I'm going to do a whole bunch of that right now. And that's it. I'm happy. No injury. Good work. I know. I could see your face when you're unracking, bro. You should see, bro. I wish I had the recorder looking at your face. I've never seen a game face like that, bro. I think you were more nervous than me. Imagine that. Imagine that. Anyway, good. Thank you for taking it seriously, man. This is important, bro. This is important.
Congratulations, that was very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You reckon you had a 4th?
Yeah. But like I was even like not banging it. I was just like guiding it. For sure there was a 4th. Good one. Good one. You know what I might do? I might see about doing a back down set. That's what I might do. That's what I will be comfortable doing. So we'll consider what that back down set is going to look like. I might even do one more set of that. Good one. Bench pressing done. That's definitely plenty of stimulus to make sure I move forward. So I thought that, you know, instead of doing 3 by 3, I thought I'll do 1 by 3, count my lucky stars, walk away. And then it's like, is that enough stimulus to move forward? Like, this is the game that I always play in my mind. Probably is, but you know, that's what plays on my mind. It's like, is it enough volume to be moving forward? Well, now I definitely have done enough volume. It's different stimulus, you know, sets of 12. I wasn't aiming for sets of 12. It'd probably be better for strength if it was a heavier weight and less reps, but that's exactly what I'm avoiding to protect my shoulder. I know that the risk of injury on that lighter weight for me is very low. So that's my highest priority, is just staying injury free, but also giving myself enough stimulus for the session to be able to, you know, move forward for next week. So all of the pushing is done. Next up, whole bunch of rows and pull downs and shoulder health exercises. And some freaking rest. Check the technique here. This is only warming up, right? But a common question that I get is, you know, do you go all the way down like Arnold Schwarzenegger style, which is what he does in pumping iron, or do you stay rigid? I believe it's kind of somewhere in between. I don't want to, this swing is kind of just momentum. That's not my upper back. But at the same time, I don't mind thoracic flexion. So again, with the thoracic spine. So remember, that's all of the vertebra that's attached to ribs. So kind of from here to here, that part of my back, I want to allow it to come into a little bit of flexion, because what happens when it goes into, so flexion means rounding and extension means this way. So when you let it round forward a little bit, I'm still holding my lower back rigid, but I'm allowing my upper back to round forward a little bit. And what that does, that's going to allow my scapula, my shoulder blades, to protract a little bit further. If I stay rigid in my upper back, my scapulas won't protract as much. It's not that much of a big deal, but that means the muscles that are attached to the scapula, which are the mid-back muscles, which is the rhomboids and trapezius, don't get to lengthen through their full stretch. So when it comes to strength training, I want to strengthen each muscle through its full range, the most lengthened to the most contracted. I'm not saying that shorter ranges don't work, of course they do, but when it comes to especially rehab and joint health, I want every range of motion to be strong. So therefore, my recommendation is maintain rigidity at the lower back, but allow for some rounding at the upper back, just so that we can get a greater stretch on those mid-back muscles. Because if I've got my chest up, in that bottom position, my mid-back muscles or my scapula won't be able to protract as far. So that's my recommendation. Let's have a look again in real time. Okay. So rigid lower back, upper back rounding, and then extension of the upper back. Upper back rounding so that I can protract my scapula and stretch my mid-back muscles, and then extend my thoracic spine so that I can fully retract my scapula. Protraction, retraction. So this is scapular position. Scapula is protracted, scapula is retracted. Now, spine position, flexed, extended. Flexed, extended. And that allows me to train my mid-back muscles by squeezing my shoulder blades together. And that's how I perform my seated cable row. Yeah, I'm taking it to a stretch. So it's not that it's loose, there's tension always on the muscle. I don't just drop and relax. I'm actively stretching. I'm actively stretching it, and then I try and never actually go loose at any part of the movement for any of my exercises. So it's maintaining tension from start to finish, especially in my core. It's looser at the upper back, but I'm still bracing my core here. The next muscle that we want to think about is the lats. So when we do a row, this is one of the biggest differences with the grip position. So I like a neutral grip. That kind of positions my shoulders in the most comfortable position. That's why it's called neutral, right? So the alternatives to that is pronated, supinated. So what's the difference here? Supinated allows me to use more bicep. When I pronate, that relaxes the bicep a little bit. So it's kind of a difference in elbow flexors. But then the width of the row handle, so when we go closer, it's going to force the elbows to tuck in more, which means that's called shoulder joint extension. And then if we go wider, 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 so what that does is it brings it more into horizontal abduction, right? So here's the difference. The further up my elbows go, the less lats we use, right? So if you want to take the lats out of the equation, you want to abduct the humerus to 90 degrees. So what's an exercise that we do with that? Well, that's the face pull. Check this out. So the objective of a face pull is, people do it as a rehab exercise or to target mid-back, but the objective is flare the elbows so that we take the lats out of the equation to place more emphasis on the mid-back muscles and the rear delts. So this is no lats, now I've got lats involved. So when I tuck my elbows in and involve my lats, I'm a lot stronger. So this is lats, and then I go less lats, less lats, less lats, up to 90 degrees, no lats, no lats, and that's just pure mid-back. Same principle applies with the rows. If you do, and I've done these sometimes and I quite like it, a wide grip row and you pull it high on your sternum. All we're doing is taking the lats out of the equation and emphasizing the mid-back muscles and the rear delts. And that's your seated cable row. But once again, you know, when I'm doing it, the goal is, for me, I'm a strength athlete. I'm not a hypertrophy athlete. I'm not a bodybuilder. So I'm not trying to build any muscle, you know, isolate any muscle in particular. I want my whole upper back muscles to be strong. I want my lats to be strong. I want my mid-back muscles to be strong. So in my opinion, the neutral position is where we get an even blend. So, you know, above the belly button, below the sternum, elbows, you know, roughly 45 degrees. Full stretch of the mid-back muscles by protracting the scapula, retracting the scapula. This is where we get the perfect blend of lats, traps, rhomboids, and rear delts. Rep range for that, I like more than 12, so 12 to 15, even up to 20. But you know, when I do less than 12 reps, I just don't find it hits the muscles right. It's one of those exercises that you just feel better stimulation when you're doing a higher rep range. So 12 to 15 reps for the seated cable row, and I'll go heavier and heavier, and I'll just do 2 more sets. That'll be 1 set, so I'll do 2 more sets of that before I do some more shoulder health exercises. Okay, that's me. I've got 1 more set. But that was actually a good session. I'm happy with today. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'm going to see you guys next time. YouTube thinks that you should see this video next. In the meantime, subscribe if you haven't already. Click like, comment what you want to see next time, and I'll see you then. Take care, guys.